Hello. If you've gotten here, chances are you've probably gone through YouTube and seen a ton of floating shelf videos. I did that myself, and when I was putting together my daughter's room, which there's a playlist of all the details, all the various things that I did for that I'll link up here. But as I was going through that process, I watched these videos and I put them together, so I ended up doing these 4 floating shelves in her room. They're made out of plywood, turned out really well. It was really easy to make. You probably don't need this video to learn how to make one of these, but hopefully this quick video shows you that it's fairly simple to do and anyone can do it. I am not an expert, yet I was able to put this together very easily, so hopefully it inspires you to do the same. So let's take a look at how we got here. The shelves are made from a hardwood plywood I had on hand from a previous project, as well as from leftover trim pieces from the accent wall. I started off by using the Craig Rip Cut Circular Saw Guide to rip the pieces for the top and bottom of the shelf. At this point, the goal is to cut the plywood into manageable pieces so that they can be ripped to exact dimensions on the table saw. This overall design works really for any dimension. Using the table saw, the shelf pieces are cut closer to final dimension, followed by putting a 45-degree bevel on the front and sides. This bevel on the front and sides of the top and bottom pieces of the shelf will provide a near seamless look for the shelf, almost looking like a solid piece of lumber. I still don't have a good crosscut sled, so I used the miter saw to make the 45-degree cuts on the sides. I followed the same procedure for putting bevels on the 1x3 pine trim pieces to make the front and sides of the shelves. After having all the pieces for the shelf cut to length, I did a dry fit to make sure everything fit properly. To assemble the shelf, I started off by connecting the pieces with some glue tape and adding wood glue. From there, you fold over the pieces to create the structure, and I used some brad nails to hold the pieces together while the glue dried. You can also just use clamps to do the assembly, but adding the brad nails makes the process a bit easier. If I were to do this again, I think I would make the bevel cuts 45.5 degrees just to help the corners meet up a little closer. I used a screwdriver to go over and burnish the corners before the glue dried up to help close some of the gaps. This helped, but still left some gaps which were patched up with some wood putty later. With all 4 shelves assembled, it was time to make it look good. I used some wood filler to close up all of the brad nails and any gaps where the plywood pieces came together. Since the shelf is being painted, I was generous with the wood filler to make sure that no joints were visible. After the wood filler had a chance to dry, which happened very quickly with this one, I used an orbital sander and a 120 grit sandpaper to sand all surfaces smooth. These shelves are going to the accent wall with the trim work and letter detail. I used the same accent paint for the shelves and did 2 coats to give a seamless look to the wall and really let the letter initial detail pop out. The shelves will float on the wall by sliding into a bracket made out of 2x4s. Since the shelves are not very wide, I was able to use several of the scrap 2x4s I had on hand to make the brackets. I started off by ripping the long pieces that will be attached to the wall and then cross-cutting 2 smaller pieces for each of the shelves with the help of a stopwatch. It's important that these shelves are attached to studs to give it some strength. I marked the location of the studs on the long pieces so that I don't attach the brackets over this. To assemble the bracket, I attached the short pieces perpendicular to the long piece with some glue and brad nails. From there, I pre-drilled and countersunk a screw. The countersink is important, otherwise the screw head may hit the wall and not let the bracket sit flush with the wall. With the help of my laser level, I lined up the brackets on the wall and secured them to the wall using 3-inch screws, making sure they stayed level. This was the easiest part of the project and was knocked out in minutes, fully transforming the wall. All in all, this was a very simple and low-cost project that took very little time. That being the case, it is extremely functional, modern, and adds character to any room. Hope you enjoyed this short video and also that it provided some inspiration for you. If so, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel for similar projects in the future. Thank you.